Hello to all you viewers out in internet land. I am A.M. Grabelny, an evangelist on the AWS evangelist team. Fancy that, right?
Yeah.
I'm joined by Alex, who's also an evangelist, and my friend Dennis here. Dennis, would you mind introducing yourself to everybody?
So I'm Dennis Hills, and I'm a mobile developer advocate for the mobile team. So we build tools to enable developers to use the AWS services.
All right.
Toolkits, SDKs, Amplify.
You know what? You know it's funny? Alex and I, we're both we're web and mobile devs.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of weird that they put us all up here together.
That's exciting, yeah.
It's like they planned it or something.
Yeah.
It's weird.
That's good.
So we're going to talk about a specific offering from AWS around mobile and web dev, right?
Yes. Yes.
Called Amplify.
Yes.
One of my favorites. Alex, what do you think?
I love it.
Yeah, it's great,
Yeah, I love
right?
it.
So our team has been really focusing on the front-end developer. You know,
Okay.
a lot of our services out there focus on the DevOps, but we're really focusing on the front-end developer, the JavaScript, web frameworks, whatever, the modern app developer, and allowing them to get started with AWS.
Sure.
So we've created Amplify, which is a toolkit, toolchain framework allowing JavaScript developers with all the frameworks available, and also native Android and iOS developers to get started quickly in their own environment. And I'll probably show a demo later, but
We're going to do some
I think so.
coding maybe?
yeah.
Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Alex, as a web dev, what are some of the issues that you face personally when you're trying to work with cloud services in general, right? Hooking up web-based applications, not always straightforward. What do you...
It's not. So you have to interact with a lot of AWS services. Maybe you have storage, you have a database, you want to have an API, maybe you want to have some data pipeline. It's a lot of moving parts, right? So as a web developer or a mobile developer, you know, it's a lot of complexity to take care of. So Amplify really helps with this.
Yeah, so a little bit about Amplify.
Sure.
It's a tool chain and allows developers to quickly get started. So it's category based. So instead of learning about S3 and security, we take the best practices for security and scalability for the developers. And we set them up and say, you want auth? Amplify add auth.
Right.
And automatically sets up username and password with the best practices involved. If you want analytics, simply add analytics. And
We're going to see that in action too,
Yeah,
I feel like, right?
Yeah, and then so all those pieces are categorized based, and we're also opinionated on the best practices so those developers can come in, they create their app in their own environment, and then they go ahead and run the Amplify CLI, and they can actually integrate their services right from their own environment, push it out. It's a CloudFormation stack at that point, builds the resources, and they're ready to go.
Yeah.
So
one of the things I hate building as a mobile or web dev is boilerplate code,
Yes.
right? Like, I've integrated with an auth service before.
Yeah.
Why do I now have to, anytime I have to integrate with a different auth service or create a new app that has an auth service, writing that same code again, every time, and I've had to do this multiple times throughout my career. Because you don't necessarily build an auth service every day, but you'll probably do it multiple times in your career.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've built a password forgot features in my Outflow.
It's annoying to build that stuff, right? So Amplify solves part of this problem.
Yeah, part of that SDK is a UI. So you have the Cognito SDK that does all the password authentication and token management.
Right.
And then also provides the UI so that you can provide like username, password, phone number, and then forgotten password, right? Because nobody should have to deal with that. That's a pain. So I don't care if my customer has to reset their password 3 times a day. It doesn't matter to me because the SDK is taking care of it. So I just simply show the UI. I can customize my logo. They authenticate, and then they have the security. So it's protecting my resources as a developer, and then the resources as the user. So it protects them in their own environment.
One of the things I like to highlight when I talk about Amplify, it's kind of broken into, and now since the beginning of this week, it's kind of broken in. I used to say 3. Now it's broken into 4 parts that I like to highlight. You can correct me if I'm missing anything.
No.
But the first is a CLI tool.
Yes.
That's intended to help you connect and create the infrastructure that runs your back-end cloud-based services, right? 2 is an SDK for JavaScript, or for iOS, right, and Swift, or for Android and Java.
Yes.
Or Kotlin, or whatever you're building in. And those have the connector pieces that connect up to those services that you declared with the CLI.
Correct.
Is that fair?
Yes.
third piece are these pre-built UI components, right?
Yes.
That's amazing.
I love those. Those are one of my favorites.
That's a big deal when you're integrating with Facebook or Google sign in, and I just did a login with Amazon.
Right.
That's really difficult to pull in their SDK, pull in the UI and get it just right, and then have that secure, the password, hidden in the username. You want to just be able to set that up and forget it. It's just like you want to worry about app development and not worry about that security piece, and it's already set up for you.
And the newest piece that I am excited to talk about now too is the console.
Yes.
The Amplify console that helps me actually deploy continuously what I'm building with the CLI and the SDK, right?
Yeah, tomorrow Nikhil will be on stage about 12:50. We're going to talk about the CI/CD part of it, and deploying and setting up with GitHub or GitLab.
Be with me too.
And then, you'll be able to set up your environment. It's with the build script, and automatically deploy that web app or the mobile app out
Cool.
there. Yeah.
So I think it's kind of become just accepted that the front end is constantly shifting. There is a huge barrier of knowledge that you're constantly have to keep yourself up to date, right? What are some technologies that you've seen that have started to impact that maybe like in the next 5 years or so I should pay attention to as a web dev or a mobile dev?
Well, one of the things that we've all the big frameworks for JavaScript, the focusing on that.
Frameworks. You're opening
frameworks,
that open first.
It's like a JavaScript developer versus Angular, React.
Right.
We support all those. Ionic, React Native, if you want to go that route. And then also the toolchain we talked about also supports native iOS or native Android as well.
Okay.
But the other tool for APIs is GraphQL.
Yeah.
So GraphQL is
huge.
a great service that is kind of an alternative to REST API, and allows the front-end developer to really choose what they want to get back from that API service.
Right.
So with GraphQL, we have a service called AppSync, AWS AppSync, and that is a hosted GraphQL service and more. Focuses on real-time data, and it focuses on offline syncing. So that's a big deal for those developers. Go in and I need the full real-time when I'm online, and then I need to have that offline capability to sync with that data.
That's
and
really
the
nice.
toolchain, the CLI, helps the developer get started with that versus code gen, and then deploying in the API and building out all that infrastructure for you.
One of my favorites of AppSync is using GraphQL. There's this concept of data resolvers, right? Where you have to tell when you go retrieve data from this, like you would an API, you have to tell it how to resolve, because you're pulling from multiple locations in a GraphQL setup. There's automatic resolvers.
Yes.
Right?
Yep.
What
and now we got
services
the
do you know?
Aurora serverless.
Yeah.
Aurora serverless that was just announced recently. So the native support, it was a Lambda function, and now it's a native support, so that you can just say the resolver's already there, and you can modify it if you need to, but that connection is already there so that the mobile developers can take advantage of the new connection to Aurora serverless directly into AppSync.
There's Dynamo.
And DynamoDB.
Elasticsearch.
And Elasticsearch are the other ones. And Lambda or an HTTP endpoint.
Yeah.
So you can have all those working together, one or all of them, if you need to.
It's great.
Yeah.
It's code I didn't have to write.
Yeah.
Right? That's my favorite code, by the way.
Yeah.
Code that I didn't have to write.
Exactly. Well, and then the other thing about Amplify is it's open source, so the community driven. So we've put it out there and opened up so the community can come out and request or do pull requests, whatever they want, and they can add to it or create issues. So a lot of the community is really involved. Like, I want to support this, or hey, I got to change. I want to add this, or customization, whatever it might be.
Right.
All the code's there for them.
And it's not just database or queues or APIs. You can integrate even Sumerian.
Yes.
Like other services that would be pretty
Yeah,
not
AR/VR for JavaScript applications, right? Yep.
Yeah. We were talking with the Sumerian team earlier too, Nell and Kyle, and they were calling out Amplify too.
Yeah, good.
So you guys are friends, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
They're on, I think, the 8th floor. Yeah.
So, you didn't know where they sit?
Yeah,
Wow, man. All right.
Because I've been to their studio. I need to borrow their camera one day.
Yeah. So another piece that I've struggled with in the past, and probably still will, but not as much since I'm able to use the service from AWS. How do you test for different form factors, different devices?
Yes.
I'm setting you up for this.
I know. Thank you.
It's like we talked about this before or something.
I know.
It's weird.
Staged. No, the part of our tool is the life cycle, right? Building, deploying, and testing. And testing is a big part of that. And we call it Device Farm.
Okay.
So Device Farm has...
Wow, we had that.
Yes.
It's so good that we did, because if we didn't, that would have been awkward.
I know.
Right.
So we got real devices in the cloud, So you can either test before you deploy, or deploy test, test first, whatever way you want to do it.
Yeah.
But real devices, and then we have the set of devices for Android or iOS. You can test web apps for the viewing of the different web views. Anything, you can automate the test. You can interact with the device if you want through remote control. So you can just see what it kind of looks like. And then in a lot of cases, we could just focus on one platform or one device, like an iPhone 10, and focus on that because maybe there's an issue with a customer, and we don't have all these phones laying around. So these are real devices that are open from the manufacturer, plugged in, and ready for you to use.
That's really helpful.
Yeah, and you can do a pool of them or just one at a time.
Amplify Console too will give you screenshots of different form factors too, right?
Yes, I haven't seen all the tools yet, but that was just recently added there. So I'm excited to see it. I haven't had a chance to play with it. I'm like, wait. Okay.
Yeah, right?
So
like a kid on Christmas. Man.
Yeah, I know. I'll stay up all night trying that.
So, do you want to show us? You want to show us some stuff?
Yeah. So I was going to run through a demo, and then we could talk through it because we might have a little bit delay in the network or something. But
sure.
So right now we have AWS-amplify.github.io. So it's all hosted on the GitHub.
Okay.
And it has Get Started. And so you simply install a CLI in Windows or Mac environment, and this sets it up. It requires Node or NPM, your basic environment. So I'm going to go ahead and skip that, as that's a different area. So,
but it's so interesting to watch NPM packages download.
Yeah.
Dennis,
And then you could choose, like I said, so the toolchain supports iOS native or Android native or any of the web frameworks we talked about,
right?
Or React Native if you do so.
So with all the support, how do I get to argue with people about which framework is better?
You don't. It's a constant battle.
Okay.
We have the native developers and we have the JavaScript developers, and then you're talking to an Angular developer, and I was like, well, we got this React sample. You're JavaScript, right?
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I do Angular.
Yeah, you're talking to an Angular developer right now. just to
careful.
Yeah, be very careful.
And then the next week it'll be like, oh, I'm Amber. I want Vue. I want So we're trying to support that community, and that's an ever-changing environment, right? The JavaScript. What framework is going to be the big one next year? And so trying to look through that hype-driven environment and really look at what works for you as a developer. Like the same thing when we get the question about, do I do native? Do I do React Native?
That's a big question, right?
Yeah.
Like, should I invest the resources into learning Swift if I don't have teams that I can operate with that have Swift expertise? Yeah. Or do I use something like React Native, like you're saying? That's
always go Swift. I'm just kidding.
This comes from an iOS
developer, yes.
Yeah.
No, and I always say it depends. Even though I have an opinion, which is fair, but really depends on your team, and it depends on what resources you have and how much you want to invest in those applications.
You know what I think
is good advice? And it depends on what kind of app too.
I think whatever is going to get you to market faster, if you are in that kind of space, if you're like a startup, that's probably the right choice, right?
But you also got to look at maintenance and all that and down the road. You see these big customers that will go out and release, the cross-platform, and then all of a sudden they may have to pull back for certain things. But for the most part, it's getting started. You got to get in the market fast. And for mobile development, the life cycle is much shorter, right? Than a DevOps, where you do the testing and scripting and everything else. It's a lot different than that, so they need to get started quickly.
Do you want to show us some CLI commands, maybe?
So here we go. We got these demos that get it started. Anybody can follow along. There's this 5 steps, and really most of it is just set up in your own environment. I'm going to run through just a React sample real quick.
Okay.
And so I already have
create React app.
Yeah, I already created the React app. So I'm just going to go ahead and run this through inside the console.
And that's just a template, basically, that gets generated for you.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what this will do is just your normal React app, and then this is going to set up in your environment. You can do NPM or your Yarn or whatever your choice is. And what's nice is about Amplify toolchain in the CLI is we're going to enable those features with the category base we talked about. Like I'm going to just go Amplify init, so I'll initialize the project.
Yeah.
And then I'm going to go Amplify add analytics for one. And that simply just adds analytics in there, and then we just add a few lines of code, and we got analytics added.
Oh, great.
Behind the scenes.
There's a lot of options, a lot of services.
Yes. So now we have the service there. Now I'm going to do just Amplify init. And what this does is set the stage. And I don't know if we talked about this, but I'll do Visual Studio Code, one of my favorite.
Yeah, the right choice.
And JavaScript, it automatically identifies the type of application. I'm going to do React.
Ooh, I'll forgive you for that one.
Source or path, and we'll just do the default builds for now. And again, you can run the different. So I have different accounts. If anybody's done name profiles with AWS CLI, same thing. I want to use a reinvent one that I have in there.
You don't want to use Burner?
No.
That seems like you're up to some nefarious
Burner
activities
accounts,
there.
I set up a week account every week, and then it just gets destroyed, and now you start all over. It's all fresh.
All right, that's what we'll say that is.
So behind the scenes, what this is doing is setting up the CloudFormation templates, right? So in your own environment, we haven't really technically deployed anything other than just the setup. And then as we add auth or analytics, it's creating this template as if I was to go in and modify this YAML XML file for the template. And then when we do an Amplify push, it pushes that template out, creates a stack, and then configures the resources for us.
Sure.
So just like you were to launch CloudFormation. So all the CloudFormation folks are like, oh, that's great. But as we know, CloudFormation is a super powerful tool.
It is.
But it's got a heavy learning curve.
It does.
It does. But it's really great. The DevOps, I mean, you can't live without it, right? CLI and CloudFormation is just a no-brainer.
I've heard a mantra that I like is CloudFormation or it didn't happen.
Yeah,
right.
Right.
Don't go in the
you can
console and
reproduce
touch
it.
anything.
You can send it over to your security team. They can review it. You could do check it into code, whatever you want. Yeah. Okay. So we initialized it, and then if I just simply want to go Amplify, add analytics. And again, this is category based, so we could do analytics, we could do storage, we could do messaging, we could do chatbots.
Yeah.
We could do
chatbots.
Several other things. Oh, and you could build the API. So you could do the REST API, which is the API gateway to Lambda situation where we can call it REST API, or we can enable a AppSync, which is the hosted GraphQL service, which is great just by simple API. And then you could have it generate code for you if you want. So like if I'm an iOS Swift developer, I could have it generate Swift code based on that schema. So it's really nice to go in there and say, oh, okay, here's my API, and then I just use that API to call on my. Yeah, it's great. So I'm going to just create a name there, and then yes, and then.
So we are adding new categories, new like services to our stack, but then you need to go and deploy, right?
Yes. Okay. So right now we have everything ready to go, and then we're going to just do an Amplify push. And what that is going to do is just basically send that template, build out a stack, and then configure our resources. And then we could do an update, we could do delete, and those are the same thing as if we were to grab a CloudFormation stack and go and delete it, and it clears out all those resources for you.
But until you push, nothing's created in the background in terms of analytics.
In terms of analytics, correct. Now what's really great about this is I can go to the Pinpoint console and say, add analytics, right?
Sure.
Create it, okay. But the thing is here, we're best practice with security, and we're tying in Cognito, right, with that unauth and auth role. So when we create this application, it's automatically tied in with those two roles, and then it'll allow you to do anonymous sending events or authenticated events.
Right, so if you have users default, that are logged in.
Because otherwise we'd have to go to Cognito, we'd have to set up user pools, identity pools, tie in, make sure we have the right credentials and everything set up and the right access policy, and then we can deploy.
Yeah.
And the same thing happens to S3 a lot, right? You put an S3 bucket in there, and then all of a sudden you're waiting, oh, let's open it wide open so it works, and then we forget to go change it. Right. So the idea here is like that best practices with all of security in mind, using the Cognito as the kind of the set.
This is my second favorite type of code is CloudFormation I didn't have to write.
Yes. Oh man, I know.
YAML or JSON?
Wow.
Tough.
That's a YAML.
So so it's running through. We'll probably won't have time to finish it up because it's running through. But what this is doing is, again, deploying that CloudFormation stack, and then we'll be able to add a few bits of code with, I'll show you what that looks like. So we follow along this, and if you could do it at home if you want, take about 5 to 7 minutes depending on your network connection, and then you'll have a fully functioning React app that's cloud enabled. So really that's what it's doing is creating this React app, and we're cloud enabling it with these categories that AWS CLI offers, or the Amplify CLI offers with these categories. And so analytics, API, auth, function, and again, you could delete or update as you wish. Awesome. And you could add username, password, Facebook, Google, whatever you want.
I love it.
Yeah.
So in the last 30 seconds or so, what are some words of wisdom for all of the web app and mobile app devs out there when using Amplify? It's the first thing you would want to know.
Just play with it.
There you go.
Or just know about it. So, and aws.amplify.github.io is where to start. Because the first thing they do is they come and say, okay, AWS, all these great services, but where do I get started?
Yeah.
And we have that opinion, we're talking about a lot of the serverless pieces, Cognito is integrated deeply. Start with this tool, and then go from there because it has all the instructions, the tool chain, the API guides, it's all there.
Perfect.
So they can get started. And then, like I said, when you hit that button, you can see that there was all the native options and all the different frameworks. And then you go from there and try it out, and you could delete it.
Yeah.
So that's the great thing. You can delete it if you want. Just say Amplify delete, and then it'll delete all of it, and you're done. Yeah.
Dennis, Alex, thanks
for having
very
me.
much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you
Dennis.
very much. Stay tuned. We got more coming for you.